Welcome, everyone, to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man, a twice-a-week sports podcast, again, where we talk sports and shoot the shit. My name is TJ, your host, and with me, again, as always, is the Grumpy Old Man. They say there is no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Grump, how are you this fine Sunday evening?
Wonderful, thank you. Yourself?
Oh, hey, there's a lot always going on in the world of sports. So,
Is that so? Is there a lot going on in the world of sports?
There's a lot going on in the world of sports. That being said, this podcast takes place every single Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every single Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're a little behind, a little late today. Many apologies. That being said, to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action, make sure you subscribe there on YouTube, like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter, Grumpy Old Man.
You sure it's not TJ Standard Time?
Yeah, we can call it TJ Standard Time. That's fine.
That's what I'd like to do. I like to be truthful with the people.
Oh, man. Grump, have you been seeing what's unfolding with Aaron Rodgers as of recent? Seems like there's a lot of backlash and a lot of uproar with what's going on with the Aaron Rodgers situation. Just to go ahead and kind of give a gloss over of this item, Aaron Rodgers said he was immunized, long story short, was not, using some sort of different homeopathic ways to prevent himself from catching COVID. He winds up catching COVID. And there seems to be some backlash because as of right now, he's not going to be suspended. Now, they're going to launch an investigation to see if he broke COVID-19 protocols, to see now if they can suspend him because there's been a large uproar. That being said, Grumpy, this situation is, man, it's odd. It's bizarre.
He did a really long interview with Pat McAfee on Friday.
I love the Pat McAfee show.
And he did a long interview with him on Friday, and he said he didn't lie about not being vaccinated. Okay, that's a lie. Here's the thing, right? And I've said it on this podcast 100 times. I'm vaccinated. I believe in the vaccinations. But if somebody doesn't want to get vaccinated, that's fine too. They're not hurting anybody but themselves in the long run, right? I mean, in the grand scheme of things. And, if he didn't want to get vaccinated, he just should have been honest about it. What I think happened was he saw the backlash that Kirk Cousins took.
That Kyrie Irving took, that a lot of different professional athletes have taken for saying, I don't feel comfortable taking the vaccine at the moment. And you're seeing a lot of that. So I wonder if that was kind of like him saying, I don't want to take any heat for this. So
that's exactly what I think it was. He didn't want to take the heat. And, he insists that he didn't lie because he was taking something else from his stinky girlfriend, some type of homeopathic thing. Who knows? The NFL said no. So, he's trying to beat around the bush. All he had to do was just be honest initially, and that would have been that. But now the powers that be, because he was not going to get suspended, like you mentioned, but now the powers that be, like, what do we always say about the NFL, right? All they care about is how they look and making money. I think he will be suspended now because there's backlash. And we know they're like the NFL leadership team is like spineless jellyfish. If they're not going to stand up for anything. So I think he will be suspended. And that's good news for Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, yeah, the entire situation has been odd. I do think you're right. He wanted to avoid any type of personal responsibility or any type of heat he would have taken in the public eye. He didn't want that. So he said, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I'm vaccinated. I'm not going to have to worry about it. He got it.
The league knew. The league knew. They knew he wasn't. I mean, I just love how they play dumb, right? We don't know. We don't know about Deshaun Watson. We don't know about Aaron Rodgers. Well, what are you doing there in the league office? They know. Like I said, the path of least resistance. No controversy. Just keep that cash machine rolling. That's all that matters.
No, it does. Now, the funniest part about all of this, right? You look at, and Aaron Rodgers is taking heat in the public eye. He lied, pretty obvious about it. He was, we talked about last time, right? He was with plausible deniability. He was, he never really came out and said, oh, I'm this, I'm that. But, he would always leave it kind of relatively open-ended, but, heavily implying and intimating that, yes, I have been vaccinated. That being said,
he said yes. They asked him and he said yes. He said, yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a direct question.
And people are starting to compare this, and this is where I think it kind of deviates away from sports because there obviously this is an issue that was overarching, but again, he's still an unbelievable talent out there on the field. People are trying to compare this and say, "Oh, well, Colin Kaepernick, he stood up for his rights. He took a knee, and he was never allowed to play again in the NFL." And now Aaron Rodgers is lying about his vaccination status, and he's just getting a week of paid vacation. He's not even going to get suspended. Do you see the double standard? And when I see this, I think to myself, these are individuals that have never watched a professional football game in their life for a few different reasons. The NFL does not care about a single player or anything but money.
They don't care about causes. If anyone thinks that they care about the Black Lives Matter cause, you're wrong. You're deluding yourself. They don't. Because, oh, yes, we believe in this, we believe in that. After a while, it goes away. Nobody even talks about it anymore. The reason why Colin Kaepernick, the reason why Colin Kaepernick wasn't playing is because he wasn't good enough anymore. That's the only reason he came out and did what he did. He was no longer a player in the NFL. Just not good enough. He was a bench warmer on a 1-15 team. Not good enough. And here's the thing. He had opportunities to try out for teams. He decided not to take them. He didn't want to play ball anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just be honest with it.
Well, here's the thing. He's got to live under the cloak of, hey, oh, no, I still wanted to play. I just get, you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like, I know, but it's him hamming it up and trying to, and just like, some people try to, pull the wool over people's eyes. He never really was all that serious about coming back. You're right, because he did have chances and opportunities, and he went ahead and tried to avoid it 100%. And like he had tryouts recently. What was it, last year? And he said, no, I'm not going to do it at your facilities. I'm actually going to go ahead and do this at an old high school stadium I've been playing at or practicing at, and we're going to live stream it. You can watch it there if you're really interested. I'm like, I can let you know something from personal experience. NFL teams and organizations do not like to be yanked around and told what they are and are not doing. They have the power and control in all of those situations. When you're an individual who has no foot to stand on, they're not going to take orders and commands and based off of whatever the players who wants to be a streetie or a walk off the street free agent, what type of demands they may have. They're just not going to do it. That being said, too, right? I've always believed with Colin Kaepernick, could the guy, once he originally was, phased out in San Francisco, could he have maybe found a spot as a backup quarterback? For certain, I think he could have. That being said, there's something NFL teams across the league do not want. They do not want distractions. They do not want publicity. They do not want people, cameras in their face all the time asking players about XYZ that is not related to the team, related to, the play on the field. They honestly do not want any distractions. It's the same thing with Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, not a great quarterback either. A nice enough guy, you think. That being said, Tim Tebow never really found a spot as a backup. Maybe was given one opportunity and that's it. Could you have argued, hey, maybe Tim Tebow needs to be given another shot? Sure, you could have. That being said, he was a distraction. Tim Tebow always brought a lot of media and a lot of publicity for a backup quarterback. Backup quarterbacks do not need to be distractions. That's why Tim Tebow was quick out of the league. It's why Colin Kaepernick was quick out of the league.
Yeah, the Tim Tebow situation was a little bit different. I thought that him being ridiculed by the media for his faith is that's disgusting to me. The thing about Colin Kaepernick is, you're right, 100% on distractions. People forget. He wasn't good enough to play on a 1-15 team. He was too dumb to learn the offense. Too stupid to learn the offense. That's why he caught lightning in a bottle. He was the fresh thing. He came in the midpoint of the season. They did a lot of the RPO stuff and the running around, but he could never learn an offense. That's why he's no longer playing in the league. Just not bright enough. I'm sorry. What it is.
Wasn't good enough. But hey, there's a lot of reasons to it. But I've always believed for people comparing Colin Kaepernick to Aaron Rodgers, it's a complete difference because Aaron Rodgers is MVP, just won the MVP trophy last season. The guy is going to be one of those, first ballot Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. And for any player that has an immense amount of talent, the league will do absolutely anything in their power to ensure that they could still play. absolutely anything in their power. I just think about Deshaun Watson too, right? He's got the 25, 26 some odd cases, however many it was, for sexual misconduct, sexual assault, whatever it was. That being said, they never actually made a concrete ruling saying, hey, as you have all these ongoing pending investigations, we're going to say you can't play right now. They never made anything concrete. They want to leave that door open, that avenue open. That's for certain.
And just one last thing on Kaepernick. Like I said, I have no interest in discussing him at all. You're right about distractions, and there's no.
Well, looks like grumpy old man has got himself some awful internet as per usual, cutting in and out at everybody's at the whim. That being said, Alexander saying, good evening, guys. Hope you guys are doing great. That is right, Alexander. I'm doing well. I'm sure Grumpy's doing well. Grumpy, you're going to fix that. You're going to fix that hideous internet you've got.
The internet's fine.
No.
I think it's your connection.
No, it's not.
From the center of the country.
Yeah. Alexander, if Rodgers gets suspended, Kyrie Irving should be suspended too.
Different league. League.
Mm.
I don't I think the Nets said that he's not going to play or practice, or New York won't let him play or practice anywhere in the state if he's not vaccinated. To me, I'm sorry, you shouldn't vilify people because they don't want to get a vaccination. I'm sorry. It's just wrong. Just wrong. Like I said, I believe in vaccinations, but I don't think that I should order somebody to do something they don't want to do. And just one last thing about the Kaepernick distraction issue. There was no way any NFL team is going to take on that distraction level, any type of distraction for a backup quarterback. Just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And then, as you understand, also, TJ, I agree with you 100% on the double standards. Kaepernick is a better quarterback than half the quarterbacks in the league. I'm afraid.
No way.
Trump, you're wrong about Kaepernick. He was really good when he came in. So he wanted me to show the stats. We'll show that in a second. Tony Cheese saying, "What's up, guys? Nice, normal, and appropriate T-shirt, TJ. I decided to T-shirt it up instead of wearing a little cutoff T-shirt. I mean, like when you look at, seriously, let's look at these stats here by Colin Kaepernick. It's one of those things that you look at all the time. That being said, look at him at last season. Towards the tail end, look at how, and it wasn't like we're talking 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. In 2015, 2016, you still had a handful of quarterbacks every year throwing for 4,000 plus yards a season. And now in the NFL, I want to say you have, almost like 10, 11, 12 quarterbacks every year that throw for around 4,000 yards. And now with the 17-game regular season, I think you're going to see close to almost half the quarterbacks in the NFL throwing for 4,000 yards every single year.
The guy couldn't even complete 60% of his passes in the West Coast offense that San Francisco ran. Couldn't do it. Yeah. Not good enough.
Here's the thing, right? And you look at the stats. Okay, well, he didn't throw a lot of interceptions that last year. 16 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions. I know another quarterback that's not throwing a lot of interceptions, but also isn't doing much to help his team win. Daniel Jones. I'm not saying they're alike, but I'm just saying, right? Quarterbacks, they have a short shelf life, and if you're not the answer, and even if you're somewhat of a game manager, you're still not the answer. It's time just to move away from players that aren't the answer. It's really easy. Again, I'm harsh on quarterbacks too. You look at them, there's only a handful of them that are really, really ultra successful. And again, Daniel Jones is one of those guys that I don't believe is successful. And the crazy thing is, right, the Giants are winning games, and people are going to make an argument, right? The Giants go into the bye week next week. They've got then Barkley coming back. They hopefully have Sterling Shepard coming back. They're going to make a big push to say, hey, we should keep Daniel Jones as our starting quarterback. And it's not the right answer. Daniel Jones is not the answer at quarterback. But because you might be able to string a few wins together, his numbers, if you squint at them, look okay. And you can make an argument saying he doesn't have enough of, a supporting cast around him. Oh, we should bring him back another year. Yikes.
If you have to squint on a player, he's not the player. Let me just put it to you that way. If you have to, then he's not the guy. And quarterback's the most important position in all of sports, in my opinion.
Oh, for certain. Again, they touch the ball every single down. They do touch the ball every single down. I wanted to follow up, Grumpy. So we covered a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. Now, I want you to listen. And you're right. People are upset a little bit. I wanted you to listen to what Terry Bradshaw had to say. And again, Terry Bradshaw took a pretty strong position on this. I'll let you listen to this, grumpy old man, here earlier on today. Let me put this big screen so you can see it.
I'd give Aaron Rodgers some advice. It would have been nice if he'd have just come to the Naval Academy and learned how to be honest.
Yeah.
Learn not to lie, because that's what you did, Aaron. You lied to everyone. I understand immunized. What you were doing was taking stuff that would keep you from getting COVID-19. You got COVID-19. Ivermectin is a cattle dewormer. Sorry, folks, that's what it is. We are a divided nation politically. We're a divided nation on the COVID-19, whether or not to take the vaccine. And unfortunately, we've got players that pretty much think only about themselves. And I'm extremely disappointed in the actions of Aaron Rodgers.
Well,
Want to ask your opinion and take on that again. So I think he gets the ivermectin thing a little wrong there. It is partially used there as a horse dewormer. There's also been
he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a dumbass.
He's
a dumbass.
It's been
Terry Bradshaw's a dumbass.
Stop. Let me go ahead.
Okay, no, don't tell me to stop. We had enough of that, right? He's a dumbass. And here's the thing. Terry Bradshaw, I hate to tell you, we still live in a free country. I don't think he sure lied, but here's the thing. He shouldn't be vilified for it. It doesn't matter. That's his choice. We still have freedom of choice in this country. If someone doesn't want to take the vaccine, that is their choice, okay? I don't care what he thinks, honestly. You know what? He should just stick to his role of goof on that show. I'm not taking anything he says seriously. And, it's real easy to get a cheap pop by saying he should learn about telling the truth at the Naval Academy. And here's the thing. I'm not a honk for Aaron Rodgers. I think he lied too. But the whole thing is the woke culture, and he was right, the woke culture is out to get him now. The thing is, I don't think he even cares. I don't think he even remotely cares. I don't even think he cares if he plays the Green Bay the rest of the year. I really don't think he cares.
I don't think he cares if let's say something were to happen where they're like, hey, Aaron Rodgers, we're never letting you play again. I don't think he'd give two craps. I really don't. I don't think Aaron Rodgers cares too much about that. And you talk about it, right? I think he cares when he's out there on the field. Obviously, when he's trying to win a Super Bowl, I think he's motivated. But he's been a guy that always gives me weird vibes where he's a take it or leave it, right? If you were to take something away from me, whatever, I'll throw it aside. Just like he did. I know the issue with the family was something completely different, but you look at his estranged family like that, never talks to him. Hey, something upset him about it. And he says, nope, I'll never talk to you again. Hey, NFL, you're not going to play? Nope, I'll never play again. That's just the type of guy he is. He's a weird cat.
Yeah, he's a tool bag without a doubt. No doubt about it. But he still has rights. I'm sorry. Just because he doesn't believe in it, well, that's his choice. I mean, I'm just kind of baffled. But again, it's easy to attack him, right? It's real easy because everyone will be behind him for attacking him for that. But like I said, I don't think he cares. And I'm not defending Aaron Rodgers. He shouldn't have lied because he certainly did. But to make a big deal about that, I mean, you could say, yeah, he lied about it. But, saying, well, he should have done this. Dude, you're not in his shoes once again. Okay. You have no idea what his thought process was. All you're supposed to do is report on it. That's it.
Yeah. So again, he took a little cheap pop at him. I thought it was odd. I've listened to Terry Bradshaw for a good bit. I've got no ill will against Terry Bradshaw, but I did think it was a little out of character for him. But hey, if he's passionate about it, say what he wants. But did he lie about it for certain? I don't know Terry Bradshaw's past all that well, so I can't. You do see a lot of times though, people. I'm not saying Terry's doing this, but you see a lot of people who throw stones from a glass house. So I have no idea about Terry's past or what Terry's done. No idea at all. But I do always like it that some people take these heroic stands, and they're always guys who have a little bit of a checkered past sometimes. No idea about Terry though.
I never remember him taking shots at other athletes. It's easy. It's easy. It's a layup. It's a layup to pick on somebody like that. He shouldn't have lied. It's easy, right? The media is 100% behind you because, everyone should be vaccinated. Well, like I said, I believe in that too, but I don't feel I have the right to tell someone else what to do. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in that. I mean, what's with the righteous indignation, Terry Bradshaw? I'm sorry. Are you vaccinated? I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. I don't care if you are or not. It's a personal decision. Like I said, I think Rodgers is an absolute jerk, without a doubt. But he still has the right to make his own decisions. I mean, and Green Bay knew it. Green Bay knew it.
Green Bay
this is
with
not a surprise.
The NFL knew about this one too because they talked about, again, this is the last time we'll hit on it, but the NFL said, hey, we're not clearing this as a form of as an acceptable vaccine or acceptable form of, combating COVID-19. So they knew about it and he didn't change what he was doing. And every single week, right, whoever filed the paperwork and said, yeah, no, we're not approving this as acceptable as the form of the vaccine. And they see Aaron Rodgers walking around all the time without the mask on, doing interviews without the mask on, doing press conferences, outside of football activities without the mask on. That's all over TV. And they see that happening on a consistent basis. They're just trying to keep it quiet and hopefully nothing happened. They didn't want to cause a stick about it. They didn't want to cause a whole issue about it. But that's the last time we'll mention that. John P. said, hello, gentlemen. 1-0 Islanders. Varlamov, 14 saves.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that game early on, and they looked a little sloppy to start the game from what I saw. Oh, there you go.
Alexander's saying, yep, Islanders came out sloppy, but Varlamov kept them in it.
Yep, and that's what I saw too. I saw Varlamov looking really sharp in goal for his first game of the season, and Islanders score first for the 8th straight game. Good for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Alexander is saying here, better than Mike Glennon or better than Jacoby Brissett, Colin Kaepernick is. Colin Kaepernick, how old is Colin Kaepernick now? What is he, like 35, 36 years old? Okay, he's 34 years old.
He can't play.
Think about this too. He's a 34-year-old quarterback who hasn't played a professional game in over 5 seasons. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it anymore. And I don't blame him either. That quarterback's not one of those things where you can drop off and come back 5 years later and, be able to be out there without skipping a beat.
He knew that he couldn't play. That's why he didn't do the tryout last year. The NFL set the tryout up for him. It was set up for him because of the uproar over Colin Kaepernick. They set it up for him. He chose not to go and said, well, I'll do it somewhere else 20 minutes away. And the league said, no, sorry. You know what? He doesn't want to play. That's the biggest thing.
Brainer 954 said, hey, Grumpy, that geezer Char just had an assist.
There you go. That's what Barry was talking about. He's chipping an assist now. He's just what we want. Exactly what we want.
Alexander said, don't worry. You can hate Rodgers even more when he signs with the Dolphins next season, Grumpy.
I can't imagine him going to the Dolphins.
I can't. I couldn't imagine that either. I don't know where he's going to go. And he's a guy too, where you think to yourself, okay, I know he's put up good numbers. Quarterbacks don't last forever. Aaron Rodgers, I think, has done a relatively good job to preserve his body. But realistically, how many more years do you think you have left of Aaron Rodgers, right? Maybe 3 or 4 more years of like this quality of Aaron Rodgers?
He's 38 now, right? So, he is in good shape. He's tremendously talented. No one denies that. I just don't think he's got the heart gene. That's the thing I don't think he has. And that's always been my issue with him. Fantastic talent, but at the end of the game, at the end of the day, he doesn't win the big games. Just doesn't do it.
Fair enough, Grumpy. Alexander said, just remember, Grump, Kaepernick led them to the Super Bowl and almost won it for him. Well, that defense in a running game led them to the Super Bowl that year.
And he was part of the running game. That was the first time of the RPO. Why? Because that's what he could do is run. He was never an accurate passer, ever. He was a runner. And it was the first time anyone in the NFL had seen it. And that's why it worked that first half season or whatever it was, 9 games, however many games he played. That's when, teams didn't find a way to scheme for it. Now they can scheme for that. You notice those guys that doesn't really pan out so much anymore? The league has kind of learned.
Alexander saying, Butchie loves Josh Bailey. Butch says, oh, Bailey always makes smart plays with his stick. He's a very smart player.
You know what he never says? Josh Bailey's a really good player. That's what he does. He never says that. Everyone says he's smart. They never say he's good.
Well, I want to show you, Grumpy. So I know we were talking about this last podcast, and we said, oh, what's going on with Odell Beckham Jr.? Well, Grumpy, Odell is going to be released by the Cleveland Browns here on Monday, Grumpy.
Who predicted that on Thursday? Who predicted
he was going to be released? That's why I told you he did not have a long shelf life there. I didn't think he was going to last, right? And we had even talked about it, right? The way the CBA is written, if you're going to ask him not to report to practice and you're still going to pay him, it can't be written that way. So you had to go ahead and take action. You had like a week in order to do so. So by Monday they'll release and they came to a certain agreement. Let me ask you this, Grumpy. What do you think Odell Beckham Jr.'s production will be here the remainder of the season, and there's a few landing spots I'm hearing that have been thrown out there. He said he wants to compete there for a team that's a contender. You'll see here, Odell Beckham Jr. would want to play for a contender. There could be issues for a team that claims him if he is not in a winning environment. So that's him just trying to say, I want to play for a winner. Don't have any scrubby team pick me up because I won't play for you. So I've heard names like the Green Bay Packers have been thrown around. I've heard names like the St. Louis Rams have been thrown around. I've heard names like the Los Angeles Raiders been thrown around. I've heard a lot of names being thrown around here as of recent, Grump.
So he's got to learn a new system in the middle of the year, right? I mean, there's going to be a problem, not in a winning environment. I guess he didn't think Cleveland was a winning environment. And he's right. When he was playing for Cleveland, they were a losing team. Anytime he was out, they were winning. He's the problem.
He's not the problem. He's
absolutely the problem. Absolutely he's the problem. He's a malcontent. When you got a guy like that, that's a me guy who's because I guarantee you he's complaining I don't get the ball enough. When his dad is putting out 11 minutes of video where his son is open and Baker Mayfield's not getting him the ball, guess what? He's complaining about not getting the ball. That's all these wide receivers care about. I need the ball. Look at me. I'm the star of the team. They're not. They're hood ornaments. That's what I look at wide receivers as, hood ornaments.
Yeah, he wasn't getting the ball enough. He wasn't getting enough targets. And
he can't even stay on the field. He's hurt all the time. He's always hurt. He's a number 3 receiver on that team. He's not good enough.
Okay. I'm going to let you know something. Today's win that the Browns had no impact at all. Didn't matter if Odell Beckham was out there or not out there. They weren't losing that game. And you're going to say, oh, well, hey, Odell Beckham's not out there. That's the reason why they had a 99-yard interception referring for a touchdown. And they forced 3 picks by Joe Burrow and 1 fumble. What? Another point, grumpy old man. What did I tell you? Joe Burrow is masquerading as I could maybe be a good quarterback, but he does so many things so freaking bad that I'm left scratching my head. We talk about our players taking the next progression and the next step forward in their game. Joe Burrow was hideous today. Hideous.
Team is better than it was last year. He's played 1 full year in the league.
He's 26. He's not a rookie. He's
not 26 years old.
How old is Joe Burrow? He was overaged.
What's he, 24? I mean,
he's
only his second year in the league.
Okay,
he didn't come into the league when he's 24 years old.
He turns 25. He turns 25 in a month.
So he's 24.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so he's not 26. Why don't you say he's 35? Okay.
Hey, squint at it there. I think he may be closer to 100.
There you go. Squint at it. That's it. Squint at the number. That's when you know that it's wrong, you have to squint at it, right? He's 24. Okay. He had a catastrophic knee injury last year, and he's came back and he's played well this year. Okay. If Jamar Chase doesn't drop 4 touchdown passes today, that game's probably totally different.
His inability to look for anybody but Jamar Chase is freaking hindering that offense. The fact that you have slot receivers like Tyler Boyd wide the freak open, and again, you're just targeting Jamar Chase target after target after target, and you're freaking completely ignoring open wide receivers and open tight ends means that you're not doing your job as a quarterback. I don't care what connection you had with the LSU. Okay. I'm sorry, man. You got to do better than that.
When the guy's open and the ball's hitting him in the hands and he drops it, he made the right decision. The guy just didn't execute. The guy's wide open. He's just dropping passes. That's not on the quarterback. The ball hits him in the hands. He's got to catch it. That's not on the quarterback. I'm sorry.
You're painting a little off, Grumpy. Again, He was wide open in all those passes. It wasn't like Jamar Chase.
The ball was right in his hands, and he dropped the balls right in his hands.
If you're telling me that you want every single ball that's a contested jump ball Jamar Chase to come down with, it's not going to happen. A lot of them were contested. A lot of times.
No, they weren't.
Oh, stop.
The 2 in the end zone weren't. The one which was like a 40-yard pass wasn't. They were not. He's got to catch them. They hit him in the freaking hands. He's got to catch the ball. How many drop balls you see today, guys, and around the league today, everyone dropping balls right in their hands. That's not on it's not on the quarterbacks. That's on the wide receivers.
I will say he dropped the ball. He did not have a good game, Jamar Chase. That being said, right, when a guy's not having a good game and he's dropping those passes, why the hell are you still zooming in and you're waiting for these long routes to develop with him? Find other wide receivers. Other wide receivers are open. Don't say, hey, you've dropped the ball 3-4 times today. We're going to keep on zeroing in on you, giving you the ball. No. Guess what, buddy? You got to earn the targets. You got to catch the freaking ball when they're throwing it your way.
He's
Right?
the best wide
Quarterback
receiver.
throws the football. When other players are open and the quarterback's still zeroing in on the guy who can't catch the ball and is struggling, quarterback's got a little bit of fault there too, Grump.
I don't care about the team's struggles.
I don't care about the team's struggles. Oh, man. Tony G saying, could Belichick help set Odell Beckham Jr. straight?
He don't want to play. He doesn't want to play with Mac Jones. He don't want to play with Mac Jones. And I wouldn't want Mac Jones being exposed to this cancer.
Oh, stop. He's not a cancer.
Absolutely is.
Come on. You like this shirt, Grumpy? I like this shirt. This is by Justin Jefferson. Maybe
He is free.
Tell.
He is free. He's free for anybody to go through waivers tomorrow, whatever it is. Let's see who picks him up, because his contract is going to make it where anyone can pick him up. They restructured his deal to get. They wanted him gone out of the organization so bad they restructured his deal to give him money so they could cut him. Just give him the cash, get rid of him. He's a disease. He's a disease, and Baker Mayfield is the cure.
Baker Mayfield sucks. I watch him play, Grumpy, and the more and more I see it, he's got game manager written all over him. He's got another one of those quarterbacks, one of those high picks that has game manager at best written on him. That's never a guy that's going to earn or win you a Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. Cleveland's been a loser, for 40 years? And this kid comes in here and they make the playoffs. I'm just saying.
They don't make the playoffs because of him. Why don't we just say Colin Kaepernick 2.0? They don't make the playoffs because of him. They make the playoffs because they have an outstanding defense and because their running game is fantastic, right? When Nick Chubb is over here reeling off 60, 70, 80-yard touchdown runs every ad nauseum, and you're picking, you have pick sixes going for 99 yards. That's not, hey, you're doing a great job out there, Baker. He had an okay game today. He's not a fantastic quarterback, though. I mean, he is what he is. He's an average, middle-of-the-road guy.
I don't think he's a great quarterback. Never said he was. But here's the thing. You're right. That team is run first and defense. So guess what they asked their quarterback to do? They asked him to be a game manager. They run the ball every first down. So if their run game is not producing, then you're putting a guy in 2nd and 11, 3rd and 9. Those are tough downs for any quarterback to complete.
Let me ask you this. So if he had, let's say, Russell Wilson, or he had, let's say Aaron Rodgers, you think they would say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, hey, Russell Wilson, I know you're a fantastic quarterback, but I want you to play game manager for me because we're going to still take the approach of we need to run, pass, run. No. If you have a fantastic quarterback, you're going to say, holy shit, we've got a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback here. Guess what, guys? I like to run the football. We're going to continue to run the football, but we're going to integrate a little bit more passing because we've got a fantastic talent back here at quarterback. No, when you have a quarterback that's a game manager, you say, hey, Baker, we know you're limited. We know what you can do out there. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we try to shield any type of deficiencies you have in your game. That's what you do with game managers, and that's what they do with Baker.
Okay, here's the thing. We don't know. A lot of these coaches, they fall in love with their system, right? It's all about their system. What have we learned from coaches in other leagues? They don't change their system based on the talent because they think their system is what makes their teams win. It's not the players. It's their genius, right? It's never that. It's always the players. I always feel that coaches should tailor their system to the players. I don't think that most coaches do. Belichick does. That's one thing he does extremely well. You look at most of the moron coaches around the league, they don't do that. They just don't do it. This is our system. Tampa Bay, for example. Bomb. That's not Brady's game. It wasn't until Brady sat them down last year at the bye week and said, hey, we need to do this, this, and this. All of a sudden, they incorporated the short passing game. They incorporated the play action pass. They got away from running on every first down and then throwing bombs down the field. And guess what? It led them to a Super Bowl. And here's the thing. What do they do this year? Right back to the deep pass. When they lose, that's how they play. And that's in the coach's mindset. They're dumb. Coaches are dumb. Why? Because they played football. Football players are dumb.
Is that why, Grumpy?
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, let me ask you this. You staying on the Browns. Myles Garrett off to a fantastic start this year. I remember saying that the first week of the year. I said, what do you have, 4 or 5 sacks the first week of the season? I said, maybe Myles Garrett might go ahead and find himself, being a defensive player of the year candidate. You called me crazy, Grump. Remember that one?
I don't remember that, but here's the thing. It helps if you play against number 73 of the Bengals. the turnstile over there at left tackle. Well, like, again, why is the coach not having someone chip that guy? He was eating you alive all day, and you left him out on an island with Garrett all day. That's on the coaches. Like I said, well, this is the system we run. We run everybody down the field, and we throw the deep ball. That's what Cincinnati does, right? Maybe we'll throw some underneath patterns, but it's a deep ball offense with Chase and Higgins. So, but you don't send up somebody over there to chip this guy who's eating you alive because what? You're afraid to change your system or alternate your game plan a little bit, alter it a little bit. That's on the coaches. Like I said, coaches don't win games, but they can certainly lose them. You realize Cincinnati was number 1 in the AFC 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Now they wouldn't even make the playoffs.
Again, I get to watch, unfortunately, a lot of those Cincinnati games because that's one of our local teams. I can tell you that they didn't look all that impressive. It's the reason why I've told you since the start. I've been telling you since week 1. I said with all these offensive weapons that Joe Burrow has, I just do not understand how he's unable to go ahead and put up video game-esque numbers. You look at it, right? Again, Tyler Boyd's another one of those receivers who can really dink and dunk down the field. So you've got one of those underneath safe options where you can go ahead and gain some yards. You can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? We've got the big field threat. We've got the big threat in Jamar Chase. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to make your linebackers, we're going to make your guys play a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. We're going to just go ahead and light you up with a short slant. We're going to light you up with underneath routes. We're going to light you up with these shorter developing routes, and you're going to let Tyler Boyd go ahead and dink and dunk the way down the field. And as soon as you say, hey, we've got to stop that because every single down, they're chunking off 5, 7, 10-yard receptions, play after play after play, it opens up for that long, explosive home run type of caliber play, and it makes your Jamar Chase wide open. But their inability to find and actually to target those guys who are open on those short underneath routes is just mind-boggling.
Chase was open down the field all game. He just kept dropping the ball. He dropped 4 touchdowns today. 4. I mean, that's not on the quarterback. That's making the right read. He hits the open man all the way down the field. And here's the thing. Their offense is not predicated on the short passing game. Like I said, that's the way they don't run their offense that way. They run it the deep ball, right? Pittsburgh used to be deep ball. Now with Big Ben, right? They still want to play that offense. He just can't do it anymore. Have they changed their offensive scheme at all? Nope. That's a coaching thing. That's what it is. Coaches, this is what I do. Nothing shall change. This is our offense. We run the same offense for 100 years. You want to know why Pittsburgh was getting beat by New England every year? Because they never changed their defensive scheme. Ever. They played the same system, and Brady ate them alive every single game. At some point in time, you have to change up the mix so that you give somebody another look.
Alexander saying, Odell Beckham Jr. says he wants to join the Seahawks.
Why would the Seahawks want him? They have Metcalf and they have Lockett. Why would they want him?
Gives you a good slot option there. Gives you an extra slot option. Again, so Russell Wilson's still out. You talk about the extra offensive weapon. Remember Chris Carson? He's out. Chris Carson's out. I mean, they said that he might be out close to, he might be one of those guys that maybe comes back there for the playoffs. That being said, you have 3 legitimate wide receiver options. You don't have to be as dependent on the running game.
Okay. They're 3-5. They're not even going to make the playoffs in the NFC.
Okay. It's early yet in the season, 17-game season, and they haven't had Russell Wilson for the last 4 weeks. They've been playing with a backup quarterback the last 4 weeks, right, Grumpy?
How many teams make the playoffs? Is it going to be one of those 7 teams make the playoff things like last year? Or is it going to be back to 6?
I think it's going to be back to 6.
Okay. You have 5 teams that are 6-2 or better. 5 out. So there's one more spot open, and there's like 5 teams ahead of them for that last playoff spot. They're not making the playoffs this year. It's not happening. Every week that Russell Wilson is out, that's another loss for Seattle.
John P. said, just give me the damn ball, Keyshawn Johnson.
Well, that's the way wide receivers are, right? It's all about them. Me.
Hey, Grumpy, I tell you, Odell Beckham Jr. should be getting more targets. He should be catching more receptions.
Odell Beckham Jr., he can't catch the ball. He made 1 catch his whole career. The one-handed catch.
Stop. That's
One
ridiculous.
catch.
He maybe had 2 or 3 drops. You know what, Grumpy? I just can't. I'm gonna be zeroed in watching those Cleveland Browns and watching the struggles of Baker Mayfield as he continues. And maybe this is going to be one of those situations where it's addition by subtraction. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. being gone helps Baker relax. It changes the atmosphere in the receiver room. I have no idea.
I think it helps the atmosphere of the whole team, not the wide receiver room, the whole team. I think the whole team was fed up with his antics. They couldn't wait to unload him.
That's not true.
As soon as he said, gone, you're a headache. You're not even worth trying to keep. That's what they said as an organization. This guy's a problem. Get rid of him.
That's what you think it was?
Absolutely it is. I don't hear anybody crying for him being released by Cleveland. Have you heard any Cleveland players come out and say, yeah, boy, we wish we would have kept him?
Yes, no. Jarvis Landry.
His best friend. His best friend.
Okay, what did I tell you? I tell you? What's the thing we're going to have to watch at? Jarvis Landry, he got 10, 15 yards receiving today, 3 receptions, 15 yards. The almighty Baker Mayfield. You're now your best wide receiver out there in the field. You can't hit him more within 3 receptions for 15 yards. Yeah, there's a reason. It's because Baker Mayfield is a game manager quarterback. He is hideous. If you put an actual legitimate quarterback out there, that offense would be killing it. I'm telling you, that offense, sky's the limit. But when you got Baker back there,
Who's calling the plays?
Stefanski, right? Head coach Stefanski.
I don't know if it's Stefanski or the offensive coordinator's calling plays. So if they send it a play and it's a run to Chubb or it's a screen pass to Kareem Hunt, then they're the 2 best offensive talents you have. Your 2 running backs. Those are the guys they utilize.
Alex Van Pelt.
Okay, Alex Van Pelt. If you don't like it, get somebody else.
Alex Van Pelt used to be the quarterback at University of Pittsburgh. He's a guy who's
that tells you all you need to know. He's stuck.
Yeah,
those who can't do coach. He's the Josh Bailey of the NFL. He's not good enough to play, so he coaches.
Good. Glad you kept riding me over there. Appreciate that, Grump. That being said, moving right along there, grumpy old man. Alexander saying Baker Mayfield, aka Ryan Tannehill 2.0.
I buy that. Yeah, I don't think Baker Mayfield's the greatest thing. He's not the problem with the team.
Ryan Tannehill is a game manager quarterback. And you just said you buy that, which means are you also subscribing to that Baker Mayfield's a game managing quarterback?
I think their system the same. They run the same system in Tennessee. It's run first, right? It's Derrick Henry. I'm interested to see what Tennessee does tonight against the Rams without Derrick Henry, because now you don't have that security blanket to run your offense through. Is Ryan Tannehill going to step up, or is he going to take a step back?
Well, you bring in Adrian Peterson. You've got Mickles. I'm gonna let you know something. They're still planning on doing the same. What are you looking at, Grumpy? I still think they're still planning on doing the same items, Grumpy.
Okay.
Meatball Parm saying Bailey's minutes really need to be cut.
I'm so glad I'm DVRing that game so I can do an in-depth look. The one thing, when we do the podcast post-game on the Islanders Never Say Die podcast, I don't get a chance to really zero in, because we're watching the game so quick in real time that I don't get a chance to look at detailed stuff. So I'll be interested to see how
John P. tuning in there. Titans up 13-3.
There's your game manager right there. He's managing them to a possible victory tonight.
Yeah, you're ridiculous.
Adrian Peterson is finished. He's finished.
Okay.
He's finished.
Here's the thing. Look at that team. Ryan Tannehill has been underwhelming this season. And last year caught lightning in the ball. He's a game manager. You've got two Hall of Fame caliber wide receivers on your team. And you're unable to. Julio Jones, one of those guys, is a first ballot Hall of Famer wide receiver. A.J. Brown, maybe you won't say, hey, you can quibble over me. He's not a Hall of Fame caliber player. That's a guy who's going to be one of those, all or Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers. You've got 2 of them on your team, and you cannot distribute the ball effectively.
Okay, but what is their offense built around? When Derrick Henry was in there,
scoring points. That's what their offense is built around. Scoring freaking points. Grumpy.
It's Derrick Henry. Their whole and they scored points. It's all built on Derrick Henry running the ball. Now the offense is going to have to morph out of that. Can Ryan Tannehill do that? We're going to find out. Like I said, I didn't think he was great in Miami. I just didn't. Let's see.
Do you want to hear how Ryan Tannehill's done so far tonight? 5 for 7, 26 yards passing, a touchdown, and an interception. Okay.
Looks like he's doing the job.
Matthew Stafford's got 2 picks. So that gives you everything you need to know.
Well, what does it say about Vrabel as a coach, right? Doing a pretty good job there.
Guess what? The Rams are going to beat the Titans tonight. You can book that.
Okay, maybe. They're good. They're really good.
That being said, Tony G saying this podcast is like when my parents fight, but it's so much more fun and less anxiety.
That's very true. Very true.
And then Alexander said, you can't win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the AFC is really down this year. Really down. Kansas City they're toast. They might, and I mean might, make the playoffs. They barely beat Green Bay today. I mean, without Aaron Rodgers and a kid playing his first game, and Green Bay was terrible. Patrick Mahomes is a shell of what he's been. You want to know why? You want to know why? Because he's getting paid $40 million a year now, and you can't sign all those auxiliary pieces. You don't have the depth. And guess what? Some of your guys are getting a little bit older. They're not as wide open as they used to be. You don't have all that talent out there. You can't spread the field. And now you're seeing how he's getting exposed a little bit. I'm not saying he's a bum. I'm just saying he's been exposed a little bit this year.
I get every single Kansas City game. They're one of the hometown teams here for us. We get a few of them: Dallas Cowboys, Cincinnati Bengals, and then you get the Kansas City Chiefs. That's again, we're in the Central Time Zone. We seem to always get those teams, and the Minnesota Vikings a lot.
I love the Chiefs logo. I love their helmet. I love their logo, the little arrowhead with the KC. Always liked it. Never been a Chiefs fan. Raiders fan way back. Raiders, Jets, like we talked. I always just love helmets. I think they're so cool. But I always kind of love the Chiefs logo too. I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air about it. I'm not so infatuated with it. That being said, I lost my train of thought, Grump. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. A lot of times, and again, he was a guy who he had a lot of easy, very convertible passes, and you're seeing his wide receivers are dropping a lot of passes this year that should be catches, which again, as his mother so kindly pointed out to us, need to be changed. You can't have that counting as interceptions anymore. They need to be called something different. I mean, Patty Mahomes, he struggled. He struggled this year. There's no doubt about it. But he hasn't had wide open wide receivers. He hasn't had all the time in the world back there in the pocket. The running game is meh. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been meh. So
he's been hurt.
Okay, even when he's not been hurt, he's still been meh. You look at when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was drafted in the first round last season. Yeah. He was not a guy who's lived. When you draft a running back, even late in the first round, you need your running back to be in a first round pick on a running back in today's day and age. He has to be a legit running back. I mean, look at the Deandre Swift. Deandre Swift, I think, was a second round pick. I mean, you look at the running backs, they have to be able to say, hey, I could take certain games where I rush for 157 yards and have, 50 yards receiving, and I could really take hold of the game. They don't have that in Kansas City.
No, but what's their offense predicated on? It's always predicated on passing the ball. And I think you're selling Edwards-Helaire short. The last two games before he got hurt, he had over 100 yards rushing. His issues have been in the red zone. He's not been able to punch in short touchdowns, and that was his problem last year as well. But between the 20s, he's been really good. I think they should throw the ball more to him. They don't do it because they target the wide receivers. What was the one thing he did extremely well in college? Catch the ball out of the backfield. They don't utilize him properly, in my opinion. They should utilize him a little bit more, and that would open up opportunities on the outside. They choose not to do that. That's on them. I don't think he's a bust.
I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm just saying you look at other running backs who are DeAndre Swift is a very similar type of running back. He's a very successful. He's an all-purpose back, a guy who's extremely talented at catching the ball out of the backfield, given he plays for a team that is bereft of any sort of offensive talent outside of who the heck is the tight end there for Detroit?
Hawkinson.
Besides Hawkinson, you really don't have a lot of talent out there in the field, so you have to be over-reliant upon DeAndre Swift doing something. That being said, I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, joining that high-powered offense, right? You're able to spread the ball all throughout the field. You've got defenses that have to lay off because they've got to drop so many people in coverage, and when you're doing that, you figure that, hey, this should be easy for a running back to slice and dice a team up, right? When I see certain games when Edwards-Helaire is getting the ball 10 times and got 40 yards rushing, you think to yourself, I'm like, okay, he's not being utilized.
Okay, but you realize, like I said, the last two games that he played, he had, he touched the ball 17 times for 100 yards, 14 times for 102, and he only caught 2 passes in each game, for 9 and 12 yards. That's all he's getting the ball.
Yeah,
that's on Mahomes, and that's on the offensive coordinator.
Leaving off the 10th. You're leaving off the 10th selectively, where he had 7 carries for 19 yards. Okay, we're not getting a stats competition, right? The guy doesn't put up good numbers. The guy doesn't put up gaudy numbers, right? You look at the beginning of the season, right? 43 yards, 46 yards. The guy doesn't put up good numbers.
But he wasn't getting the ball a whole lot.
60, 70 yards a game. And even again, if you look at it, the whole composition of work, what has he played now so far this year? He's played 6 games. 6 games.
Four games.
Are you excluding the Ravens and the Cleveland Browns game?
Those are the 4 that he played. He's been out since he went out in week 5. He got hurt against Buffalo and he hasn't been back yet. He's on injured reserve.
Okay. He's played 5 games this year. Okay, 5 games.
I'm throwing out the Buffalo game because he got hurt in the first quarter.
Oh my God.
Or in the second quarter. So he didn't play a full game that one.
I'm going to squint and say, yeah, I'm not looking at a game where he performed poorly. Nonetheless, again, 60 yards a game for a running back in the first round, not cutting it. But John P said, what do you mean? What are you trying to say? As a running back, if you're drafted in the first round and you're averaging 60 yards a freaking game, that's not cutting it.
That's a whole nother topic. I didn't say he should have been drafted in the first round. I don't think any running back should. I mean, unless you're a generational talent, you shouldn't take a running back in the first round. You can have guys who are picked in the 4th and 5th and 6th rounds who are just as productive. Running backs' careers are short, 3-4 years. That's it, right? I mean, it's just the way it is.
John P saying, carries there. Adrian Peterson got 3 carries, 7 rushing yards, 2.3 yards a carry. I'll be interested to see how Adrian Peterson does here. And again, when he was playing for Detroit last season, again, they're miserable. The Detroit Lions were miserable last year. They're miserable this year with an even more. Penei Sewell's been a big plus for them on the offensive line this year. But I'll be interested to see, what are you doing that squint face for?
They're over the season. Sewell hasn't been great.
What do you mean he hasn't been great? Have you watched any of the games? Oh, stop. And that's where I'm
not been great this year. He's given up quite a few pressures.
Oh, that's it. On to the next one. Oh, that you're funny. You're going to make me cut up. Meatball Parm says, Grump, are the Carolina Hurricanes fans as annoying in real life as they are on social media?
I don't know how annoying they are on social media. Since
I will give you a pinch. I'll paint the picture for you. The Caniacs are very annoying, in your face type fans. They've got this little edge to them again because they're a team that's been really successful as of recent. They're a pain in the ass on social media for certain.
Okay, then I'm going to say no, because like I said, every Hurricane fan that I've met is a rational person. They don't act jerky towards me, so. And they know I'm an Islander fan, but they also know that I'm truthful. So, and, I speak highly of their team because I think their team is really good. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know they're known as idiots, right? Don't they call themselves that or something?
Caniacs.
No, it's something else. There's something, I know they're called Caniacs, but I think they're also they call themselves idiots or something. There's some derogatory term that they call themselves. And I mean, if you're laughing at yourself, what's wrong with that? But I don't know what they're like on social media. Can't speak to that. Sorry.
Alexander's saying, guys, how about the shocker of a game today? The Jaguars beating the Buffalo Bills. Who saw that coming?
Not me. Not me. I mean, Buffalo's lost their last 2? I mean, they were looking like the team they're going to roll in the AFC. And all of a sudden, Josh Allen seems to be taking a little step back and been turning the ball over quite often. And losing to Jacksonville, man, that's a black flag. In NASCAR, they wave the black flag, come in, you're going to get penalized a lap. You can't lose to Jacksonville. Even the Dolphins beat Jacksonville.
Let me ask you about this.
No, they didn't. They lost to Jacksonville.
Well, no, the 2 teams Jacksonville's beaten are the Dolphins over in the United Kingdom and then Buffalo. That being said, what does this say more about? Because remember, even Trevor Lawrence got banged up in the game. James Robinson, the starting running back, was out here today too, was unable to play. What does that say more about? Does it say more about Jacksonville maybe starting to go ahead and get some momentum going in the right direction? Maybe Urban Meyer maybe has a team on the same page, or does it say more about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen?
Buffalo and Josh Allen. I don't know what the heck is going on there. I mean, even the last couple of weeks that they've won, it seems like that Tennessee game when they lost to Tennessee, when Allen slipped on Monday night. It seems like they haven't been the same since then. And you can't lose to Jacksonville. I don't care. If you're playing on Mars without helmets, you should still be Jacksonville. Space helmets.
Well, let me ask you this: what would they have to be wearing? What would the equipment look like in Mars, Grumpy?
Probably they'd have to have shoes that would keep them on the planet, because I don't know what the gravity is there. I don't know what the gravity is. I can't speak to it. I don't know enough about interplanetary gravity. But here's the thing: what I'm saying is, it shouldn't have happened in this universe. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, man. Tony Cheese said, I can't believe it. I'm going to say this, but every quarterback should structure their contract like Brady did for the Patriots. And I was about to say, I'll let you speak to this, Grump, because I know you usually do a really good job covering this portion.
Really underrated aspect of Tom Brady is how he took less money throughout his career. He didn't go for the $40 million contracts, which he certainly could have made more. He took, and I'm not saying that he took pay cuts, because you always get paid that money as a quarterback, but he took less than market value. That much he did do. And it enabled New England to keep the train rolling, to keep the right players in the system. I know he's been pissed at times when he took pay cuts to help the team, and then they cut players that he liked, like Logan Mankins, Wes Welker. That always bothered him. Richard Seymour, another guy, because they play it cheap with other players. And that's the way that New England did it. You can't, well, Tom Brady is getting paid this. We can't pay you that much, but you're going to be contending for a title every year. I think it's difficult to ask players to do that because their careers are finite, and you don't see Aaron Rodgers doing it. You don't see Mahomes doing it. You really don't see anyone else doing it. They always get paid their whatever they think they're worth, they get paid. And Brady has sacrificed, and it's helped the team, and it's also helped Tampa Bay. I mean, he took less money to go to Tampa Bay.
And I will tell you this too. Now you're right. I think you're right, Grumpy Old Man. It is something that is definitely underrated and underlooked and underappreciated what Tom Brady does. That's one of those guys, and you look at it, he's made more money, I'm sure, than he could dream of ever spending in a lifetime. And there are certain quarterbacks that have that. Quarterbacks that are around in the NFL for a long time, they're going to be in a similar situation, like your Aaron Rodgers, your items like that. They've made a boatload of money. If you're smart with it, you could never spend that much money in your lifetime. But he's always done. And again, you talk about what are they willing to do? Some quarterbacks are, hey, I'm willing to put the extra hours in here. I'm willing to do this. Very rarely do you see players saying, I'm willing to take less money in order to go ahead and have this team be successful. And Tom Brady's one of those guys who's habitually done that.
I think what sets him apart is, and I'm not saying other quarterbacks don't want to win, but that's what drives him, is the winning and to prove people wrong. He's had that chip on his shoulder ever since he was in high school, in college, and in the pros. He's never been handed anything, and I think that's what makes him so good. And that's why he doesn't need the money. He doesn't. But I think other quarterbacks don't have that. I'm not saying they don't have the drive to win, but not like him. He's almost like he's maniacal about it.
Yeah, and keeping that chip on your shoulder, even as you've won multiple Super Bowls and you've been extremely successful, is something really tough to do.
And closing in on 45 years old.
That being said, I'm not turning this into a powder puff. Hey, Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. We can't do this. Sorry. Alexander said the Green Bay defense played really well this year. Has played really well this season.
They have.
John P said, I'll let you read this comment, Grump.
The Heidi game, November 17th, 1968, the New York Jets versus the Oakland Raiders in Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. The Jets were up 32-29. And they had just taken the lead on a Jim Turner field goal with, I think, 1 minute and 5 seconds to go. And all of a sudden, NBC, because they had a contractual agreement with the NFL. If you ever notice how NFL games, if they run over, they continue the games. Back then, they didn't have that agreement. So somebody in New York, at the headquarters of NBC said 7:00, we have to put on a movie, which was Heidi. And for those who don't know, it's about a little orphan girl in the Swiss Alps. I was actually, when I was in elementary school, I was Peter the Goat Boy in a play, Heidi, that we had at our local school. And, I relished that role. It was my first acting gig.
So hold on. You said you were Peter the Goat Boy?
Peter the Goat Boy. He was Heidi's little friend.
Let me ask you about Peter the Goat Boy. What did your role entail there, Grumpy?
I had to. Well, I talked to Heidi. We had lines together, but I also had to call the goats. I had to make a little yodel-hoo. So I had to do that from like off stage. That's how you knew it was my turn to come in. Oh, Peter the Goat Boy, is that you, Peter? And so I was in that play. Not the movie, though. I was not in the movie, just to let you know. But what happened was NBC cut from the game and went to the presentation of Heidi, just like with 1:05 to go. Oakland comes down, big pass to Charlie Smith, scores a touchdown. Oakland goes up, and then they kick the ball off to the Jets. The Jets fumble the kick. It gets picked up by Oakland, and they score another touchdown, and the Jets lose. And no one knew because there was no internet. There was no sports center. It wasn't until the next morning when my dad woke up, and at like 7:25, they used to have the local news, and they said how incredible it was that the Jets had lost to Oakland and the Heidi game was born. It blew up the switchboard, and no one could believe it. And that was the end of that. Now they play the games to the end on television because of the uproar.
Well, I'm glad they did that, Grumpy. I'm glad we got a little bit of a background,
a little history.
Alexander,
like Butch and Eaton's department store. It's me in the role of Peter the Goat Boy and Heidi.
Alexander said, "Guys, I thought Jordan Love showed some composure today."
But how did they play today? What was Green Bay's offense today? Were they throwing the ball over the field?
Looked a little different, that's for certain. Again, they tried to shelter Jordan Love, that's for certain. They tried to go ahead and say, "Hey, we don't want to put you into too many chances where we're gonna ask you to do too much."
Right, but is that his fault, or is it the offensive coordinator's fault and the head coach?
Well, here it's a mix. It's a mix, Grumpy. And the reason being is because if you're talented enough, when you step in, they're going to say, "Hey, in practice, I've seen you do so many great, unbelievable things. We're good to go ahead and just let you have the full playbook. But if you look like you're not that talented at practice and you miss open receivers and you don't hit your reads, they're going to say, holy crap, if this guy does what he's doing in practice and we open the whole playbook, we're going to get annihilated." So it's a little bit of both, right? The offensive coordinator sees the deficiencies of the player front, up, and center.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but the whole thing was they changed their offense up. I mean, Kansas City was running a whole. What do you do with a rookie quarterback? What do you do?
Blitz pressure, whole bunch of scheme blitzes.
Right, and that's what Kansas City did today. I thought the kid looked okay. He's not Aaron Rodgers, just not.
No, not many quarterbacks are. Tony Cheese said the mass on Mars is 30% less than that of Earth. So you'd be 30% lighter on Mars, Grumpy.
Okay, so you would need to have the heavier shoes then, I guess, to keep you on the planet.
Exactly. You're going to have to be wearing some heavier cleats. Hey, Grumpy, you're going to have to go ahead and put yourself on some heavier weighted shoes. That's for certain. John P. said, speaking of Mars, I'll let you read this, Grumpy, because I'm going to mess up this name. You're still muted, Grumpy.
Oh, that's right. Otis Sistrunk. He was defensive tackle for the Oakland Raiders back in the day when they were, renegades and whatever. He said that he was from the University of Mars. That's what he said. And Howard Cosell used to enjoy reading that.
Alexander also
people forget. Do you even know who Howard Cosell is?
I know he used to work there. He used to be big voice across the NFL. Howard Cosell.
Right. He was a former lawyer, and he was the voice of Monday Night Football. And, he was huge back in the 70s. Huge on Monday Night Football. Everyone knew Howard Cosell. And in the 80s, too, even in the 80s.
Alexander saying, Anders Lee with 2 goals tonight. Him and Barzal looking like they're gaining that chemistry back.
I wonder what's happening with our pal Josh Bailey. Is he part of that? I said I will enjoy watching that game on DVR. I will.
Meatball Parm says Brady made up the money through the Patriots hiring TB12.
I think he made that money up by hiring Gisele Bündchen. She makes more money than he does. She's worth more than he is.
Yeah, well, he's always been smart with the branding and everything like that. He's been a good businessman. Yeah, John P. also saying Brady makes a ton of money off of the field. He knows that it's a smart business decision to take less for playing to surround himself with more, for certain, right? Puts up more numbers, looks fantastic. It builds, hey, the GOAT. I mean, it sells itself now, I think.
It wasn't always like that. TB12 is a recent thing for him, like within the last 4 or 5 years. You're talking about early in his career, he just took less money and, to keep the team together. And I just think that you don't see players do that. And I don't blame them. The careers are so short that, you want to maximize your earnings. I don't blame a player for getting every penny he can get. I really don't.
What I mean, you look at the positions. Running backs don't last a long time. Receivers really don't last all that long unless you're kind of taller, lankier, and you find a good way to avoid contact. Tight ends don't last that long. Linemen, meh. So I mean, quarterbacks are the position. Quarterbacks and kickers, you last the longest in the NFL. And now with the new rules that you can barely tap or breathe on a quarterback, with very questionable calls in the Atlanta New Orleans Saints game today, but the fact that you can barely breathe on a quarterback and it's called, unsportsmanlike, personal foul, excessive force on a quarterback. They want those guys lasting as long as kickers do too.
Why? Well, they don't care how long kickers last, but quarterbacks, yes, especially if they're good, because it's a quarterback driven league. People want to see the quarterbacks throwing the ball over the place. That's what keeps the cash cow rolling. They don't want to see games. Oh, look at this one, 10-7 today. And it wasn't like it was a great defensive struggle. It's because they couldn't complete a pass. They don't want that.
Now, speaking about Jordan Love, I think you'll find this interesting. Do you know how on the Monday night games or on the Fox graphics, they go ahead and create, the players, they make them look all buff. They try to make them look all defined. I just want you to take a look at Jordan Love. This is what Jordan Love.
He looks like The Rock.
I mean, take a look at Jordan Love's picture, and I want you to take a look at what they created for him.
I see no striation in the tricep. I see no definition in the forearm at all. Hey, that's why it's a caricature, I guess.
Oh man, well, some of the characters are really, really bad, and this one here, they're making Jordan Love look like a Greek god. I mean, look at the shoulders, look at the bicep, look at the forearms. Oh man, he's looking huge and jacked. And in this image, he's just looking like your average everyday quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, the shirt even looks a little bit tight around the middle. I mean, it doesn't look like it's tapered very well. Yeah, good for him. You know what? He'll always have that picture.
I tell you. No, I just figured I'd pop it up because when I saw that on social media, I laughed at Grumpy Old Man. I laughed and laughed.
You ever see those commercials where they say this product is going to make you look 1,000 times better? And the before picture is always some woman who her face is all washed out and she's not smiling. She's frowning and she's got her chin down. So she shows a little, the little gobble down here. And then they show the next one and she's got a tan. She's got a big smile. She's made up. Oh, look at the difference. Yes, because you put on makeup with a trowel and just slapped it on there and spackled it up and sanded it all down.
Look, I've got no wrinkles anymore. Look, the puffiness under my eyes are gone. I see all that stuff and I think to myself, I'm like, man, oh man, I'm completely the opposite. I really don't care too much about how that looks. I mean, yeah, how you are is how you are. If you've got crow's feet, you're gonna have crow's feet. I don't even notice things like that. But yeah, I know what you're talking about, Grumpy. Oh man. Tony Cheese saying Brady and his wife make enough money outside of football to classify his continuing to play just as a hobby.
Yeah, but it's not like, it's true. But it's not like his hobby is like setting up trains in the backyard. He's taking a beating when he gets hit.
Oh, just stop.
Okay. He still gets hit.
I'm not saying he doesn't. Don't say he takes a beating.
I'm just saying it's not really a hobby. It's not really a hobby.
Stop. For quarterbacks, for a guy like him, he does exactly what the Elis and Peytons did. As soon as somebody felt some pressure on his arms, like, they fall right down. They want to make sure they're not getting hit. They want to make sure they preserve themselves.
Okay. Playing football is not a hobby. Sorry. I don't care what the position. Maybe kicker. That's it.
Oh, fair enough, Grumpy. Fair enough. Beatball Parm says Bailey has done jack shit, Grump.
So he's playing like he normally does. Okay. At least we know he's not getting any worse.
Oh, Alexander said, TJ, quick question. In your opinion, why are the Mets having a hard time to hire a VP or a general manager? Do you think that we could see infield of both Bryant, Lindor, Francisco Lindor, Javier Baez, or Correa?
That's a question for you. I'm glad Alexander. I've been wanting to talk about that on this podcast for a while now.
Why it's taking them so long, I'm not sure.
Everyone's turning them down. They're getting turned down by I think they've been turned down by 4 candidates. 4 candidates have turned them down. It tells me they don't like the direction of the team. They don't feel comfortable in the ownership. I don't know if Sandy Alderson is still in charge. I just think that's a problem. They can't get anyone to accept the general manager. I'll take it. I'll take the GM job for the Mets.
Man, are you officially throwing your hat in to be general
throwing my hat in the ring. I'll do it.
Oh, here's the thing that always kind of you look at the team and how it's structured, and you look at, okay, obviously general manager, you want to go ahead and win yourself a pennant, you want to win yourself a World Series. Look at how many of those players they have tied to longer term contracts where you think to yourself, I'm like, oh God, their entire pitching staff is always injury plagued. Look how many of those guys that we've got tied to longer term deals, and you just think to yourself, I'm like, okay. And then we've got Noah Syndergaard. Now did he officially sign back, Grumpy Syndergaard?
They gave him he and Michael Conforto both got qualifying offers. So that means that
we don't know exactly what they're going to get paid or anything like that just quite yet.
Well, what it means is that they can go to free agency, and if they get signed by another team, the Mets would get compensation coming back. So they're both free agents.
Or we can go ahead and offer to match too.
No, has nothing to do with that. That's not the way it is in baseball.
Okay, gotcha. I know that those rules are. I know they're a little different there across all different sports. That being said, I don't know why they're having such a tough time though finding a general manager.
They've been looking a lot at the analytics geek guys, and honestly, I wouldn't go that way. I'm sorry, I just don't believe in that. Where a starting pitcher goes 4 innings, 4.5 innings. As soon as it goes the third time in the lineup, you know how good your pitching staff has to be to win like that. I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, Tampa Bay has done it a little bit, but I mean, have they won any championships? No. It's the teams with the most talent who are winning.
And regarding, I mean, Lindor is definitely going nowhere. I mean, he's going to be there for.
He signed a long-term deal.
Yeah, he's there with a long-term deal. It just, you look at a guy like that, you're like, okay, you'd like him to be able to go ahead and produce some sort of way like he used to back there in Cleveland. But man, oh man, it looks like he's going to always struggle to consistently get on base and to produce those numbers we'd seen in the past.
I mean, you look at Chris Bryant, right? He had a bounce back year this year, but after his MVP year, he's had like a couple of really down years, 2 or 3 down years, really down.
Yes.
I mean, so it's like, do you want to throw money at that guy because he has a bounce back year and a contract year? I don't know. Baez strikes out way too much for my liking, and I am nowhere near as high on Carlos Correa as a lot of people are. I know the Yankees are hot for him. I'm sorry. I know Houston offered him a 5-year deal for like $30+ million a year, and I don't think he's going to take that. Maybe he thinks he'd get a 10-year deal with the Yankees. I wouldn't offer him that much. I don't think he's that good. I'm sorry. I think
when healthy, he puts up good numbers. And again, like, I mean, what reasonably am I expecting from a guy like Carlos Correa? Probably about hitting about 250, 260. I mean, the power numbers are relative. I mean, the power numbers have been there.
Is that worth $30 million a year to you? Not to me.
For a young middle infielder, for a young shortstop who's got the ability to play shortstop, second base, a guy when healthy who could probably hit like 260. And he's going to be hitting, 25+ homers. And depending on where you have him in the lineup, he might be able to scratch 100 runs and maybe close to 100 RBIs.
I don't know. For me, he's not a $30 million a year player. He's just not. I'd much rather invest in a pitching staff if I was the Yankees.
Well, the Yankees are a whole different can of worms. They don't need to go ahead and worry about bolstering up, further bats. That's for certain. Oh man. And Alexander sent us this, grumpy old man. I'll let you take a look at this. So the Green Bay Packers set up Jordan Love's mom and his girlfriend with some really, really, really fantastic seats at Arrowhead Stadium, Grumpy. So Jesus, it's honestly, I'm shocked for. I mean, think about it, right? This is his first career start. You figure, hey, in all likely, I'll be honest with you, I'm shocked that they didn't actually buy the seats themselves. Once I looked at where these seats are, they're sitting all the way up in the bleeds. Grumpy old man, look at this. Here is where Jordan Love's girlfriend and his mother are sitting, and just so you get perspective of where they are, all the way at the top of Arrowhead Stadium. Holy crap. You couldn't do any better for the guy.
I think they usually have like a friends and family section. Maybe it was late, or maybe they said, you know what, we don't want to be with that group of the friends and family, because if he performs like crap, we don't want to listen to that abuse either. Maybe going incognito was the way to go for them. I don't know. You think they could have done a little bit better. You don't know when they asked for seats. It could have been really late. Here's the thing. Kansas City sells out all the time. That's not one of those stadiums where seats are readily available.
Okay, so what happens is they're saying many are mocking the Chiefs for this, and the Packers are also responsible. The league rule requires home teams to provide visiting teams with some nice seats. Green Bay chose to use them for other players' family.
There you go. He's the backup quarterback. That's what he is. He's the backup quarterback right now. They got free tickets. What are they complaining about?
Yeah. No, here's the thing too. I'd come off the hip. I'm sure, like, hey Jordan, can you buy I hate to be that guy, but can we get a little closer? We want to be able to see you. I mean,
here's the thing. We don't know if that's the worst seat in the house. Is that in the end zone? Or this
is the top. It's in the bleeds. It's the top, the tippity top of the stadium.
I understand, but if it's in the center, if it's at the 50-yard line, those seats are way better than if you're in the end zone. I'm just saying, I don't know if they're exactly the worst seats in the house.
Maybe they're not the worst seats in the house, but
that's all I'm saying.
Not good seats, that's for certain. John P. said 13 days left till the Islanders' first home game at the new barn, a new era.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really am.
And Alexander said, I think it has something to do with Alderson. John P. saying a couple of owners have refused permission for certain underlings to talk with the Mets.
I didn't know you could do that if it's a step up. I didn't think that you were allowed to do that. I know there are people who have turned down opportunities to be interviewed from the Mets. I didn't think it was a team thing. I thought it was the individuals themselves were saying, I'm not interested in the job. And like I said, it could be, like I mentioned earlier, and Alexander just mentioned, it could be something with Alderson if he's still running the show, or the ownership group, or whatever. Remember, the Mets have been a dumpster fire the last number of years, right? I mean, you had the Callaway situation after the sale of the team. You had Rojas, who was a disaster as a manager this year. It seems like after the Beltran situation, I just think there's a lot of things I'm saying, you know what, they're not real stable right now. I mean, maybe that's the way they look at it. And here's the thing, they're a bad team as well.
Yeah. Again, they've got the pieces where they could be real competitors, but
how many GMs have had issues also? Not just managers, the GMs, right? The Wagenbach guy, whatever his name was, who was a player agent, somehow gets a GM job. I mean, is that smart?
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's an odd situation for the Mets. It's not like they're afraid to spend the money. They have big name players there, are names only. But geez Louise. That being said, Grumpy, I wanted to show you Jack Eichel came to town officially for the Vegas Golden Knights. I want to show you how he's greeted. And I think this is funny. You talk about the fanfare, you talk about, the excitement around, a guy who's going to be a bona fide top line center, and, just kind of how Vegas treats it a little differently than I assume other teams would treat this around the league. And I ask you this question as we watch it. Could you ever see the New York Islanders or a team even like the Rangers or team like the Pittsburgh Penguins do anything like this? I know Vegas is more of a show town, so it's a little different. But
that's what I was going to say. One thing you want to say, Vegas knows how to put on a show, okay? So I'm going to say that off top. I know it's going to be – I mean, look at how they do the introductions of the players, the teams. Whatever they do, they banging things and doing the horns, and, they got the Knights or whatever the heck they call them up there. I mean, they put on a show for a game. They really do.
Welcome, coming to Vegas. We need to sponsor chaps around. We wanted to give you a true Vegas welcome and welcome you home. Get the bags. Come on in.
Dance with fucking the snake.
Jack Eichel. Was that Grumpy?
Well, I guess the little mascot is Chance.
Just got into town. Very warm welcome. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for all the support over the last few days.
I guess Chance the snake is their mascot.
Yes.
You know, like, take a chance on us, right? Roll the dice, take a chance. We're in Vegas.
Snake eyes. Kaboom.
I mean, what do you think Eichel's thinking? I don't know. It looks like he was caught off guard.
I don't know. Maybe they just said, like, hey, we're going to have a little reception here. We're going to have like a little reception. They're going to greet you here, and then we'll go ahead and get you in and get you sorted. I don't think he was expecting all that when he came in. And it's a funny thing is, right? Hockey players usually are not guys that are over the top. They're not very flamboyant individuals. They're not very, they're not usually very bombastic people too. So, he probably looked like he was a little quiet and reserved. He's kind of like, oh, this is out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. But you know what? It looks like he was enjoying it though.
Oh, I know. It looks like think about it. He just went from an organization to where they wouldn't even they said, no, we're not going to let you have surgery the way you wanted to where he feels like, oh man, I'm being valued. I come to town, I'm just traded, and they're throwing me a little bit of a reception party. I've got dancers and people banging on drums. I've never seen anything like that. That's probably what he's thinking about.
The only thing he got in Buffalo was maybe a discount on just about to be expired meat. I mean, that's about all you're getting in Buffalo, right?
Oh, Jesus, man, oh man. Oh, good gracious, Grumpy.
Good for him. I hope he succeeds. I hope everybody succeeds, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Yeah.
Got a few more comments. Yeah, John P said, yeah, actually, it's a contractual thing. They can refuse to allow their management to talk with other teams. That was the case with the Brewers guy that was the guy that was targeted.
Interesting, because if it's a step up for a guy, I wonder why they won't let them interview for those jobs. I think if it's a step, I think if that is the rule, if you're looking, I've never seen a place that says you can't interview if it's a type of promotion for you unless you get the promotion there. I could see maybe the unilateral, but if it's a promotion, they shouldn't have a right to stop you. I don't think. But if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then Alexander said, TJ, did you read about the report about the altercation between Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil?
That was earlier in the season, yeah.
Well, I remember it had something to do with, like, they said something about a rat or a possum or something like that, but I know it had nothing at all to do with that. So I think it was more than what they alluded for certain. Something about rat.
It's a bad mix over there. It's a bad mix. Just is. Then the bias situation, which was way worse. Calling out the fans is never a smart thing.
I couldn't believe he did that either. It's like Tyrann Mathieu doing that too. I was like, oh, come on. Meatball Parm said, we need a live stream of you guys watching an Islanders game live. I know we're going to do one. We're going to do one. It'll probably be on like a Saturday or something like that where we can do that, take like a little 30-minute break in between live stream of that and then go do the actual podcast and post. But we are going to get that on the schedule on the books, and we'll make sure to let you guys know when we're doing that, multiple weeks in advance. Alexander said that's the biggest acquisition there by Vegas in history. Yeah, Lindor grabbed McNeil by the throat in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, is this the guy that you gave all that money to? I don't know. You just got to be a little. You got to be a little smarter than that. I'm sorry.
I want to go ahead and bring up on screen here for you, Grumpy, because we're doing the way too early college football playoff predictions, Grumpy old man. I wanted to show you this, right? So when college football playoff predictions or college football first rankings came out this Monday, as of November 2nd, it was a little odd. It shocked some people, Grump. I'll let you talk about it here in a little bit, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Again, like I said, TJ's got the bladder the side like a squirrel. It's funny because I mentioned this with TJ and, my other, my son, Nicholas, and he was talking about, how come Oklahoma is rated so low. I'm an old Oklahoma fan back from the early 70s when Greg Pruitt was running the ball and Joe Washington and Billy Sims. So I have a natural affinity for them. I don't think they're a great team, but they're certainly better than Cincinnati. How is Michigan rated that high? they just lost the week before to Michigan State. Cincinnati, they're one of those. They don't play in a big conference. They almost got beat by Tulsa this week. Had to have 2 fourth down plays stopped in the goal line situation. Michigan State lost this week. They should drop out. Alabama didn't look good against LSU. Oregon lost to Ohio State. How is Ohio State below them? Georgia's the best team in college football. But you're going to see, and then you got Wake Forest, who also lost at number 9. So there's still a lot of teams that are going to lose. You're only going to see 1, maybe 2 teams that are undefeated by the time the playoffs come around. Remember, and like I said to my son, Oklahoma, if they win out their last 3 games, they're going to play 3 tougher opponents. They're going to move past the Michigans, the Cincinnatis. And, all they have to have is one other team lose. If Alabama loses another game, they're out. So there's still a chance.
You think if Alabama loses another game, they're out?
Yeah. Yep. They didn't look good against LSU. Okay. And I just think that Georgia beats them. There's no way you're going to have a 2-loss team in the playoffs when you have other teams below them that are undefeated. That's not
here's what I think about all this, right? There's not too many more undefeated teams. I know I heard you talking about Oklahoma 8th. I mean, come on, throw a little respect on it. Throw a little respect on Oklahoma. I'm not an Oklahoma fan, but throw a little respect on it. Again, still 9-0, and you're putting them in the likes there in the Wake Forest category.
Here's the thing. I don't think Oklahoma's that great. They haven't looked good. They made a quarterback switch midseason. But if they beat Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State, and then whoever they beat in their league championship, they will be in the top 4.
Okay, well, think about it. You talk about the remaining schedule for Oklahoma. They're going to have at least 4 games here, the remainder of the year. We're going to be playing 4 ranked teams, 4 teams in the top 25 for the remainder of the season. And you just catch yourself thinking, you're like, okay, yeah, that's tough. Even if they lose a game, I still think they should be in the top 4.
If they lose a game, they're not going to be in the top 4.
I know they're not going to. I just said I think they should, though.
Like I said, if Alabama loses again, they're out. There's no way a 2-loss team is going to get in there. Michigan State, out. Michigan, I don't know how Michigan is number 7. Here's the thing. They're losing to Ohio State. So Michigan, out. Cincinnati, lucky to beat Tulsa. Okay? They're going to drop because their strength of schedule is nothing. Wake Forest lost this week, 58-55 in regulation, not even overtime, to a bad North Carolina team. I mean, they're out. They're done. Well, so, like I was telling my son, all Oklahoma has to do is just continue to win, and they'll be in the playoff.
Okay. And I want to talk about a few of these items here. I think that Alabama, even if they have 2 losses, I still think Alabama makes it in on name.
No way.
Okay. Let's look at this the rest of the way. Oregon, I would put a 2-loss Alabama team in over a 1-loss Oregon team any day of the week. I would. Here's the thing. Cincinnati could win and they could be without a loss. I still think a 2-loss Alabama team deserves it over Cincinnati. As I said before, and I'll say it again. Yeah, Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. And again, Notre Dame, very, very, and again, it was at Notre Dame. It was in South Bend. That being said, if you're a team that's in a non-Power 5 conference and you're playing the teams of the rinky-dink, what conference is Cincinnati playing? The AAC, right?
Yeah,
playing the American Conference. Unless you're playing out of your non-conference games, your 4 or 5 non-conference games, I'm saying at least 2 or 3 of those games have to be against top 25 opponents, right? They did a good job. They scheduled Notre Dame. You have to have, and again, the scheduling gets done years in advance. But if you think you're going to be a contender, you have to schedule more than 1 top 25 opponent at a conference if you're going to be saying, oh, possibly the biggest game we could have is Notre Dame and then maybe a top 25 team in SMU. Sorry, it just doesn't cut it for me. I mean, I know you mentioned Michigan State. They're out of the picture. Michigan State still had a lot of tough teams to go. Michigan plays Penn State this next week. You're going to see a lot of these Big Ten teams start to pummel the hell out of each other. So that's going to be fun to watch. That's going to be entertaining football. Georgia. I mean, they've been good this season. It'll be interesting to see how it all transpires.
Yeah. Like I said, I was telling my son, I said, this is the first week of the rankings. There's going to be so many. No, all these teams are not going to be undefeated at the end. You might have maybe one or two teams that have an undefeated record. But I disagree about it. If Alabama loses 2 games, lose to Georgia, and they don't win a conference, they're not going to the Final Four. That's not going to happen. If you lose another game and you don't even win conference, you think if Oregon wins out and wins their conference, Ohio State wins out, wins their conference, Oklahoma wins out, wins their conference, there's no way Alabama gets in. No way.
Oklahoma's not winning out. I think they could win their conference. They're not winning out. I realistically see them going 3-1 against those 4 top 25 teams are going to play. I still think they deserve a bid at it. Ohio State has a really tough freaking schedule. You talk about Harbaugh, right? This has to be a make it or break it for him. If he doesn't finally beat Ohio State this year, I think he's out as Michigan's head coach. Would you not agree? How many years in a row have we seen them be on the cusp and they just never can take the next step forward and they just collapse towards the end of the season?
All I know is John Cooper could never beat Michigan, and with the only game they'd lose all year was to Michigan, and he kept his job for like 13 years. I think he was 2-11 against Michigan, and he was somehow able to keep his job there. They love Harbaugh there. He's turned them around. Remember how bad they were even 2 years ago?
I know under the Brady Hoke days and the items like that, Michigan was bad. That being said, I really think this is a make it or break it for him, right? They still have a lot of tough games ahead of them, Michigan does.
True. And that's why I'm saying a lot of those teams, just by attrition, I'm not saying Oklahoma's that great. They're certainly not. I don't think they're good enough to win a national championship, but to get into the top 4, I think they can definitely do that.
John P saying 21-3 Titans at halftime, 2-1 Islanders at the end of the second. Oh man, I'll tell you, wow, Rams better watch out. It looks like they're an upset alert. That's for certain.
That's good news for the Bradyites. That's for certain.
John P said, seriously, Alabama versus Cincinnati, predict the final score. If it's Alabama against Cincinnati, I'm saying it's 35-10 Alabama.
I say 55-10. I think they absolutely kill them.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati. It's one of those things too, where it's like Cincinnati is no UCF.
Depending on if they're both in the playoff. Okay. If it's like a random, Alabama didn't make the playoff. I don't even think they care about their bowl game, which we saw against Utah a few years ago. They didn't make the Final Four. They could care less, and they wound up getting killed by Utah. That's the only thing. And, Cincinnati would be sky high for that game. So that's the only way that Cincinnati would have a chance. If it was in the college football playoff, Cincinnati has no shot. Cincinnati's out of all those 10 teams, I think Cincinnati's the worst.
No, Wake Forest is the worst. I'd pick Cincinnati over Wake Forest sucks.
Not me. I wouldn't pick Cincinnati over anyone.
I've watched Wake Forest a few times. They are abysmal. They have no defense. It looks like they're Pee-wee. It looks like Pee-wee football out there on defense. They miss so many tackles. And you saw I can't even remember the quarterback's name for Wake Forest. In the fourth quarter, they got outscored 24-0 against UNC Chapel Hill. The quarterback had like a pick. He was like 2 for 11 or something like that. Just choked in any type of pressure situation. They've played absolutely nobody this year, Wake Forest. Wake Forest is hideous. Awful. I'm going to tell you, Wake Forest might have 3 losses by the end of the year. They're starting off 8-0. They might have 3 losses before the year's up.
That's because they play in that weak-ass ACC. That's the problem.
The ACC has been bad this season. There's no way to concede.
Where's Clemson? Where's Clemson? Is Clemson in there somewhere? No.
Yeah, just squint. I think they're at number 11. Oh man, they're just right below that, Grumpy. They're right below Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oregon's one of those teams where it's not going to make you all excited, but Kingsley Sumataya, the offensive lineman who was starting for Oregon.
Talk about the offensive line on your time, please. No one wants to hear about offensive line talk.
He signed an NIL, which is the reason why he left Oregon. He was a 5-star offensive lineman recruit. He was starting for Oregon. BYU convinced him. Now he's got an uncle that helps coach and recruit at BYU. They brought him over to BYU saying, hey, we can get you an NIL. We can start getting you paid more than what you are currently at Oregon. So he decided to transfer solely based off of the NIL. So, yeah, that's one of those items, too, that kind of left me scratching my head. Maybe it's, he wanted to be closer to home, too. I'm not sure. But I know the NIL had an awful lot to do with him transferring. A 5-star offensive lineman who was starting for Oregon, who was on, he was on the preseason. He was on, middle way through the season, based off production. He was on, hey, you're on the accolades as a true freshman. You've done an excellent job. As a starter, he decided to transfer from Oregon, a team that competes for national championships, to BYU. I want to be closer to home, and I want that NIL. It's just funny how that works. We talked about, hey, what type of impacts would name, image, and likeness have? Kingsley Sumataya.
Okay. He's an offensive lineman. Who cares? It sounds like to me that what Oregon should have done was get him an NIL deal with duck shoes or something. That's what they could have done. That, have him out there traipsing around in duck shoes, being an offensive lineman. They should have been proactive and done something like that to him. Now they lost the talent. Sorry.
Just, it's funny. We said, like, how would the landscape change with those type of items floating around? John P said, by the way, Grumpy Old Man, according to my latest email, your Eastern Mexico University gear is supposed to ship tomorrow. Go Hounds.
I can't wait. I was even thinking about that today. I said, you know what? I don't know if John gets a notification when it gets here, because I was just going to surprise him that when it does come in, just going to wear it on whatever show. As soon as I get it, I will wear it, John, right away.
Absolutely. Grumpy. Now, we've talked a lot of sports here so far today. That being said, there was
ding ding
a fan fight submission. Now, this was submitted here by Alexander. Thank you so much. Now, this one is a little different. Some of the fan fights, we get them really, really close up. We can see everything that's going on. Now, this one, I happened to look and I targeted some other individuals, and I want you to see if you see. I want to get your take and see if you have the same take as I do, Grumpy Old Man. This is at a Fresno State Bulldogs game. Now, Fresno State happened to lose this game. They're a top 25 team. They lost this game. I'll let you watch this massive carnage over here, Grumpy.
Where does it start?
So there's a big fight that's breaking out in this section over here.
Okay.
Let's look at the security guards.
Yeah, looks like they're waiting to see him punch themselves out.
There's a massive amount of humanity. I want you to take a look. Oh my God. Woo. There's one security guard I'm looking at in particular.
Oh.
There's one security guard that I think should be canned after this event.
Oh, another one. There's Mr. Bud Light walking around. Everyone taking pictures. There's some real cops, not the red. Uh-oh. What's going on?
I want to ask you the question. Do you see
this
this
photographer sucks?
Yeah, he doesn't flip it sideways either. I want you to watch this guy right here. He's got the skull cap on, he's got the hoodie on, he's cold out, and he's got the gator and the neck gaiter on. I want you to watch him as his other security individuals. And again, right off the top, they say, "Oh, it looks like you guys are afraid to go up there and mix it up." I want you to watch this guy. He looks like he's the best in shape. He looks tall. He looks like he's well built. And I want you to watch how much he does to help diffuse this situation. I just want you to watch this guy right here, Grumpy Old Man.
Looks like he walked away.
No, he's walking up there with his other people, the CSV or the CSC event. And maybe I will say he's got a red thing attached to his chest, so maybe he's supposed to administer first aid or something like that. But he looks like the biggest son of a gun out there. So I'm not sure what type of first aid he should be submitting, but maybe I'm being overcritical, but I just want you to watch how much he does there for the event staff.
You know what? I'm looking. It looks like his name is TJ.
He's standing to the side. He's not, and maybe he's the guy who's supposed to administer first aid, but he looks like the biggest guy out there. People are throwing fists, they're throwing hands. He's just kind of standing there going, "All right." I'm just kind of observing here. He doesn't. I don't think he does. And here he is again. He's just kind of still standing there. I'm not sure he's doing anything. I
think he's looking for Coco, his service dog. Maybe that's what the thing is.
Look at that. I've never understood why they get so crazy and they fight each other. I have no idea what started this fight. I wish we had a closer view. But this guy right here, he doesn't do much to break it up. And I'll tell you, those security guards, like, this is exactly what you're looking at. People who are not paid all that great to work these security events are like, "Oh my God, I actually have to go ahead and mix it up." Oh,
they call them game day employees. They get paid nothing.
I was about to say, and they're thinking to themselves, okay, usually it's pretty nice. I get to just stand and watch the game, and I get to say hello and shoot, and I shoot the shit with my friends. And now they're like, oh crap, I'm getting called to action. I'm gonna have to go ahead and fight these hammered drunk fans who are throwing fists. They're not gonna feel anything. And I'm just here, literally, just the yellow uniform usually tells them, stop, caution, caution, caution. But I'm just shocked by this guy. Maybe he was the medical professional on scene, but he looks like he's the best shape out of all these individuals.
Yeah,
you see everybody else, right? You see this. I mean, this guy right here. I mean, this guy.
One guy actually waded into the crowd.
The first guy they're bringing up there is he's huge. I mean, he's playing D tackle for the Chicago Bears. That's how big he is. I mean, this
is that the fridge? Is that William Refrigerator Perry?
That's William Perry up there. And you got his friends. You got a few ladies up there following up, mixing it up. And I see this guy. He looks like he's the best built individual out of all of them. Maybe he's just a medical guy, first aid guy. But man, oh man, I was shocked. I didn't know if you noticed the same thing I did. They did not look like they wanted to mix it up out there.
I noticed the guy falling through the barricade. That's what I thought was funny.
Well, they get pushed from all the way up top, and he starts tumbling all the way down. And I'll let you watch it again, Grumpy. We'll put it in slow motion here. I'll slow it down. And they get, whoa.
It looks like you got stopped by something. That little piece of cardboard isn't going to stop him.
Oh, my.
How'd he go?
It's the metal barricade. They got pushed right through.
Whoops. Bang. Well.
Almighty. I tell you, that would be a scary time period, especially if like you have kids around and stuff like that. Be like, let's get the kids the hell out of here. They've got these drunk idiots beating the hell out of each other in the stands. Get them out of here.
Unless you hate your kids and you just throw them into the mix.
No, stop, Grumpy. They wouldn't do that. Oh man, they wouldn't do that, Grump.
Like I said, I thought that security guard's name was TJ. Didn't do anything. Nothing to see here. As soon as it's over. Okay, everybody. I got it all calmed down now.
Alexander's saying round one fight. John P saying I used to live 45 minutes north of Fresno. There's some really rough hombres in that town. Just saying.
Hombres? It's hombres.
Hombres. What can I say, Grumpy?
Hombres.
Nick D, look at that, Grumpy. The old Islanders Never Say Die podcast. Little
yeah, that's an old one.
That's an old one for certain. He says Varlamov has some rust to shake off, proving that Sorokin should be number one.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I try to play him against a weaker team to break him in. I mean, I don't think Minnesota's that great. We're playing, defensively.
We are losing to Minnesota 3-2.
What?
We're losing to Minnesota 3-2.
Okay. Well, we were up 2-1 last time I heard.
Yes, they were, but we gave up 2 goals quick. It's in the third period, about 10 minutes left to go, down 3-2.
Okay. Hopefully Josh Bailey had something to do with the loss if we lose.
Well, he's got no points, so.
There's a shock. He's got to put up Simon Holmstrom-like numbers.
Oh, goodness gracious, man. I'll tell you, it's always something with Josh Bailey. Now, Grump, that being said, hey, man, we're towards the end of the podcast. Let me ask you, what would you like to say and comment in, Grumpy, before we wrap things up today?
I just want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't. From TJ, the grumpy old man, you guys are the lifeblood of this podcast, and we really, honestly, it makes the show. It really does.
Absolutely does. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you as well, grumpy old man, for your time and dedication. And again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in the live stream into the podcast. We always have fun communicating with you guys, talking sports and shooting the shit. It's always a good bit of fun there, whether it's, some serious topic or something we're just kind of joking around about. But thank you again, guys. Thank you, grumpy old man. Again, remember to subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, follow on Twitter. This is a twice a week podcast on Thursdays, 9 p.m. TJ Standard Time, and on Sundays, 8 p.m. TJ Standard Time. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll be back with you next Thursday at 9 p.m. TJ Standard Time.